Okay, what I want to point out, because it has confused some people, is that fascism, or National Socialism, or Peronism, by United States political standards, it would be considered progressivism. All of them would be progressive, to varying degrees. Now, progressivism was embraced primarily by industrialists that were either the heirs of people that made it in the Gilded Age, or were survivors of the Gilded Age, that understood that they felt a need to raise civilization up, especially in the United States. One of the most notable proponents is Theodore Roosevelt, not Franklin Roosevelt, but Theodore Roosevelt, who, if people knew about him, with his concepts of striking, using the government to mediate between employers and employees, unions and employers, is very similar to Mussolini in a lot of ways. In fact, a lot of National Socialism looks like it was lifted from true progressive handbooks. Now, what people also need to understand is this. There was a fascist coup by progressive industrialists in the United States, led by a gentleman named Robert Sterling Clark, whose foundation still exists. I should say alleged coup, which would have been a coup similar to that of what put Juan Perón in place. Okay, now the Robert Sterling and the Rockefeller Foundation, for example, helped fund development of the Mussolini government and Italy's systems after Mussolini took power. One of the big things that the Rockefeller Foundation worked on was the eradication of malaria and the development of marshlands to help prevent malaria. Now, why this is important is because every kooky conspiracy theorist goes, the Rockefeller Foundation is Jewish, Rockefeller is a Jew. Number one, Rockefeller is not a Jew. Number two, Mussolini was not against the Jews. And number three, and this is the hardest thing to understand, is not all Jews were against either progressivism or were against fascism, or National Socialism for that matter. Hitler's bodyguard was Jewish. My point is this. My point is that people need to understand that history and politics are more, they're more than what meets the eye. Too many people think that it's very simplistic, that, every rich person is bad. Now, what I would point out is like the Rockefeller Foundation or the Robert Sterling Clark Foundation, the Eva Peron Foundation, which I discovered when I was researching Eva Peron, helped to lift up the society of Argentina, as these other foundations in the United States helped to lift up the societies in the United States, helped with the park systems, things like that. My point is that people need to understand that progressivism was stolen from progressives by liberals. Now, progressivism, to be a progressive, you don't need to be a liberal or a conservative. All progressivism is basically the utilization of public policy to institute reforms that lift civilization up. Now that can be done either under the liberal view or the conservative view, or neither view. Truly, progressivism in the United States was very much about using science to lift up civilization and using science to form public policy. Now, what's important to understand, for example, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, she is the only person, I would say, is a true progressive that's in a political office in the United States. She happens to be a liberal progressive, not a conservative progressive, but a liberal progressive. Teddy Roosevelt was a conservative progressive, a nationalist progressive. Although some of the things that Alexandria Cortez wants to do, such as Medicare for all, I consider very good nationalistic standards that would help lift up civilization for the United States. My point is, progressivism is empiricism more than anything else. It's the application of science to create public policy, which really just the use of public policy to lift up civilization.